That is absolutely is what we face as women as we start to lose our hormones. We start to go into osteopenia, osteoporosis. How do we do that? How do we try to fight against that? We are doing weight bearing exercises, right? We're doing good diet, meaning like we were talking about, like trying to pile in the greens and everything else, the vegetables, to try to help with that.
Hey everybody, it's Diane Gilman, proud host of Too Young to Be Old, formerly the Queen of Jeans on QVC HSN, but now concerned and fascinated by all things aging female. And today is about taking control of your health, navigating hormones, weight loss, and that gigantic wall that separates us, young to middle-age old, menopause. We've got the ultimate expert today, Colleen Kupka. And welcome, Colleen. I've got
Thank you.
a question to ask you. And I must admit, here's the question. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017, December, they asked me a simple question. Were you taking hormone replacement therapy or bioidentical? And I'm like, I don't know. How could I not know? But I just didn't pay attention to it. And basically, nobody even explained it to me. So for the audience, can you tell us the difference between, and my understanding is bioidentical is more healthful, so want to hear it all.
Well, you know what? You're exactly right. And a lot of time, you know what? Your story and my story is similar. When I went into menopause, I walked in, diagnosed me, didn't talk to me really about menopause, what to expect, and anything like that. Handed me some creams. I walked out the door, didn't like them, never followed up with me. And that's the reason why I'm here today, really, because I had to go out and learn about this stuff. And just because someone may hand you a hormone also doesn't mean that they've been trained in hormones, just so you know that one too.
No kidding.
But you know, and it is such a it's a different field for me, right? You go to school, nurse practitioner school, MD school, all that stuff. We're not trained. You have to go out specifically and get trained on this. But you know, way back a long time ago, like in 2001, there was a study, and they brought up, you know, the hormones. Back then, the hormones were different than what they are today. I mean, so for like today, not bioidentical, or they could say the estrogen was from a horse. It was Premarin, right?
It's horse urine, which I always thought,
Yep.
You're kidding.
Yep. No, and it's actually pretty potent. You know, there's some estradiol in it, but there's some other things in it, but there's like 60 different types of estrogens that are different from our own. So
what is negative about that?
About the horse, about the Premarin?
Well, yeah, that's the fact that you've got different kinds of estrogen that are different from our own. What makes bioidentical a better match for or more hormonal for us?
Right. So it's structurally the same as what we take, what our own body makes is what they are. They're still made in a lab. Okay. They are, but they're structurally the same. So estradiol, which is what E2, it's called E2 also, is exactly identical to us, right? To what we make. Same thing, progesterone, right? Progesterone is identical to what we make. However, there is a synthetic form out there called progestin. Progestin, right? It is not the same as progesterone. It is very confusing to people out there because they will think that progestin is progesterone, and it is not.
And which one is better for us? And
absolutely. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Progesterone is absolutely better for us. And the reason...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The reason, first off, it's not structurally the same. The second thing is that when you go back to most every study, there's issues with it. and like breast cancer, possibly blood clots, all that kind of thing. And it's used like in the IUDs today, but it is still used on where they're just handing out progestin thinking it's the same. And it doesn't even act the same. Meaning, so like progesterone, I love it for my women because it helps them sleep, right? It helps decrease anxiety. Progestin will do nothing like that at all, will not do it.
For me, when I was diagnosed and I was 72 and I was asked these questions, I was told when I gave the answers that I'd been on hormone therapy replacement for years. I really extended it because being on television, doing all sorts of crazy hours around the clock, I didn't think I could really do my job adequately or maintain my beauty regime because I was in fashion television without it. And I was told that I gave myself cancer by using hormones too long, too far into my old age. What is your viewpoint of that? Is there a time in life when we just turn around and say, okay, I'm not allowed to have help anymore? 'Cause to me, it was a miracle to be able to take a hormone and get rid of, or at least soften down some of those menopausal symptoms, which are sort of going to go on forever. What is your opinion of hormone replacement as a trigger for cancer, breast cancer at least, if not many female cancer?
It's actually protective. So it's actually protective, like progesterone, protective, right? Estradiol. It is, even when they go back to the study, they thought a long time ago in the 2001, the WHI, at first they thought there was an increase in cancer. There was not. And actually, even going back to that study, get this, out of 10,000 women, only 30 suffered some kind of effect, and they were older. But as far as hormones are concerned, I will tell you, you don't stop. You don't stop. You know, I have my dad who's 89 years old. He's on testosterone. You know, you don't stop. And there's just so many benefits, but there's so many viewpoints out there, but there is no study to say that anyone is too old. No
And
study out there.
was told, and I was told in almost exactly these words, that I flooded my system with female hormones and gave myself breast cancer.
Yeah, that is just breast cancer can occur for so many different reasons, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So many different reasons. And
So
certainly they still, it's so controversial out here. You'll hear different things, right?
So I'm going to ask a question before we get into diet being one of the foundational areas where you can increase your enjoyment of life while you're going through menopause, because that was the other thing. There was absolutely no marriage between lifestyle and hormones you took when I went through it, and that was 33 years ago. So I was about 45. Okay. So I'm me, and I still depend on the way I look in front of a camera and how my hair is, and is everything healthy, and is my skin vibrant. Do I go back on hormones again? Do I
They
do
would,
that? Is that going to improve my life, or is it actually too dangerous? I am going to make a very bold statement. I believe in red light therapy. That is a form of LED/laser lighting. It is being used in all the best boutique spas now in Manhattan and Beverly Hills, but it's available to all of us now through FlexBeam. I got what kind of looks like, pardon me, a bullet capsule belt, like for warfare, and it kind of is warfare against achy joints and inflammation from FlexBeam. I use it every night on my arthritic knee. I use it on my left arm, which has lymphedema from having all my cells removed, lymph nodes removed because of breast cancer. It's like magic. Actually, I'm traveling to London with it in a couple of days. I'm going to use it even on the airplane. What does red light do? Red light gives you blood circulation. It gives you warmth. It gets those achy muscles, those arthritic joints moving again. And you know what? Flex Beam is so easy to use and it's rechargeable. And yeah, I know you may say to yourself when you look at it, whoo, yikes, that's a lot of money. But Flex Beam, this particular device, is really meant for you and I. If you're anybody over 50 and you're beginning to see your joints stiffen, you're beginning to get aches and pains, doing exercise is becoming more of a strain than a reward system, you need Flex Beam. If you want to check, go to your nearest spa, the spa that may be using it, that may have forward thinking, because it's still really in the forefront of treatment. And they'll tell you how much a session is going to cost. And I'll bet you 4 sessions would equal what you're going to pay for this FlexBeam red light therapy device, which is portable, uncomplicated, rechargeable, kind of comes with a Velcro strap and an extra one so you can put it on any area of your body. I put it around my knee. I put it lower part of my knee and then lower part of my thigh. So I get the blood circulation going everywhere. Honestly, I don't want to live without it. Flex Beam is a real deal. And you're going to find that with the discount that you can get using our code in the caption, this is going to become a way of keeping yourself younger. I almost call it reverse aging. I can move around again. My knee was arthritic. I'm telling you, red light therapy is truly modern aging. Try it and let me know. And keep in mind, the price is so worth it because this device is going to keep going for the next 5-10 years. This is not something that you use for a couple of months and then it kind of fades away. This is my absolute comfort go-to. FlexBeam is a real deal.
I'm not going to call it too dangerous, but the thought out there is like, well, you've had cancer, you shouldn't go back on.
Yeah,
However, there is no real study out there saying that it is causing breast cancer. However, again, it's a world that you're going to have different viewpoints, and I don't agree upon everything.
yeah, so many different viewpoints that you really like start to get whiplash from
Yep.
hearing that. And the other thing that was very interesting to me is that when I went through treatment, and I went through it at a major, respected hospital system in New York City with very sophisticated medical advice, they had around the clock nutritionists. And I thought, oh, they're going to show me how to eat to get better usage of the chemotherapy and to come out of this healthier. But no, it wasn't that at all. It was just that they were so afraid that you were going to pick up bacteria and get some sort of stomach bacterial infection and die from it because your immune system was down, that it was, no, you can't. My favorite thing, and it's because I'm Ukrainian Russian, so it's in my blood, caviar. No, you can't eat that. Salad. No, you can't eat that. And I'm thinking, but aren't those healthy foods? But it really wasn't about health. It was just about keeping your gut from gaining some kind of weird bacteria, like if there were, or no salad bar, because the food stands there. So any food that was preserved was absolutely off limits. So I did go fully 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 healthful and organic as I could. But I didn't really have a key point of view about it. So for women who are about to enter or in perimenopause or in the middle of menopause or post, let's talk about diet because of course one of the number one fears of menopause is gaining weight, and the second one is starting to look old really quickly. And diet can help you stay or at least look youthful, and it certainly is going to make you feel better if you're doing it correctly. But what's correct?
Today, that's all over the place too, right? I mean,
Uh,
think
yeah,
about, every type of diet is so good for you and all these different things,
yeah.
and when my patients come in, they start at, coming in to me at perimenopause and then moving forward, right? And so that's the time that I start talking about them, like, start working on diet now, trying to really clean it up, right? Because when you enter into menopause, you're going to gain. It is just
Oh,
one of these things. You start gaining, right? You
I
just,
ballooned. It was like my core muscle, my core musculature through my middle ballooned. And I just became this round thing on two little skinny legs. And
oh,
it's never truly gotten back to what it once was. And I feel like I almost have to starve myself to keep any kind of reasonable body weight. So, what should we do? I believe that you are really a proponent of a plant based diet along with bioidentical hormone replacement.
I am. I am. And I think um, the one thing is really, no matter if we're meat eaters or not, right, is really to get plant-based foods in because they offer all the nutrition. And the thing is my thought is that if you need to recognize your food because all the stuff in the grocery store and you look at the packages and all that jazz, you don't even know what's in the food.
Yeah,
And
that's
so, right. And so if you can start taking in more greens and more those kinds of foods and grains, not like quinoa, not all grains, but just different things like that to get your diet to where it's not inflammatory, right?
inflammation is something that I never anticipated. And yet, for me, that is absolutely the number one aging aggravation since coming out of menopause. Although many doctors say once you're in menopause, you're in it for your whole life. But inflammation is something I am so desperate to cut down on. Do you have any advice about foods that are inflammatory that I can get out of my diet?
Absolutely. So the easiest thing right now, the easiest thing are the oils, right? So when
Olive
we're
oil?
going, not, well, I'll talk about olive oil, but on the whole, think about it this way, Diane. When you go to the grocery store and maybe you pick up one of those packaged foods or you go out to a restaurant, they're
Yeah.
going to be giving you, you're going to have oil in your diet. They're going to put oil in that food, not the healthy oil. Maybe they're using canola, sunflower, sapphire, excuse me, sapphire, and all of that, which are high in omega 6s. So the biggest thing is omega 6s are inflammatory. We have these, right? So we have omega 6s and we have omega 3s. Omega 3s are really good. They fight inflammation. So like your fishes and all that kind of thing, right? Nuts, seeds. Omega 6s, those oils, we all are touched by them in a way. If you're going out, that's what they're using and they're cheap and they're inflammatory, every one of them. And what's so funny about it is they call them plant vegetable oils, right? Because they're taking them from a plant, but they're extracting it and it's also GMO. So GMO foods within themselves, we're being exposed to those also. So when I talk to my patients, the biggest thing, if they can just start working on getting those oils out, they're going to see a huge difference. The other thing when I talk about inflammation is dairy. Okay. Dairy, no matter how much we may enjoy it, It is inflammatory. So, you're looking, I don't care if it's yogurt, if it's cottage cheese, if it's milk, whatever, those foods right there are inflammatory. So if they can start decreasing those foods, they will see that things change. Like I can have young girls that come into me full of acne, right? I get them off the dairy. They don't believe it. The acne is going away.
Wow.
Or, or let's say you have asthma, right? Or something like that. Or let's say you have arthritis, something like that. You start cutting back on those types of inflammatory foods. You will see a change in how you feel.
So let me ask you something because it was a big shock to me. I was talking to a doctor because we interview a lot of medical on this podcast for that change of life and healthful, a health span that is good and good to live by going into your 60s, 70s, and 80s. I was just told that I was lactose intolerant, got a DNA test. Okay, fine, I'm lactose intolerant. And that soy, which I've been avoiding because I thought soy manufactures estrogen and I had estrogen based breast cancer, so I shouldn't have any soy. I was just told I, in fact, should have soy because soy actually is a barrier to getting cancer. I am so confused. What are your thoughts on soy products
See,
for
and
us and beyond?
I don't like it. And see, that's what this world, right? Everything is out here and it's so different. Soy can interact with your hormones, right? So I've never heard that it can protect on that way. So in my own life and in my what I recommend, I don't recommend it. But again, it's
You know, there are just 3 or 4 different levels of advice in the medical system. And
uh-huh.
there is the classic, which is don't do this and don't do that and don't eat red meat and don't. Okay, and then the next one is don't have soy because you have estrogen based cancer. And then the next one is have soy. It actually stops you from it. Cancer won't recur because it's a great barrier. And it just goes back and forth. It is so confusing. And you keep thinking, you're playing with life and death here. So what you choose to believe can actually wind up killing you. It's crazy. I want to know for weight loss, weight maintenance, no gaining of weight, how do you balance out a diet during the real throes, the real belly of the beast menopause? No red meat, no chicken, which has tons of hormones in it. How do you advise?
First off, when you're going to the meats, right? When you're going to the meats, they shouldn't be grain fed. They should be grass fed.
Yeah,
Because, right? Because
yeah,
otherwise they're going to have maybe the genetically modified material in it, right? So
no, I
GMOs.
check. Yeah,
And so that's the first thing. If somebody is eating meat, it's like try to get grain or grass fed. Same thing. You're going to crack up at this one. Eggs. If they're doing eggs, when you buy them in the grocery store, high omega sixes. Buy them from a farmer, way lower. So try to do as natural, right, as you can. Adding
yeah.
in as much of the, greens and with, vegetable or fruit and those kinds of things that are natural to us, those kinds of foods, and really trying to, like I said before, cutting down on the oils, doing our workouts and the things that we need to do. That all plays a part within when we're aging, right? Is to be really choose wisely in what we're eating out there and to know what's in your food if possible.
Yeah, and I always say, and somebody actually gave me this advice because I was, and it was definitely a few years ago, and I was saying, oh, I'm not going to eat meat anymore. There's Impossible burgers, and that's so great. And someone said, Diane, if you pick up a pre-prepared food, which Impossible burgers are really,
Yeah.
and the paragraph for what's in the food is like 4 inches long on the
Okay.
pack. You're not helping yourself at all. That has got so many elements in it, coloring, spices, product that holds it together so it doesn't
Yeah.
fall apart. That you are not doing yourself any favors. So what is your opinion for menopausal women on a product like Impossible Burger as opposed to pasture fed beef burger, a real burger? Which
A real
would
burger.
well,
You look at what's in those things, and it can look really good for a while. They'll say, "Oh, there's carrots and there's beets and there's this." And then you start to get in a little bit lower into the huge line, and it's like, "Oh, canola oil, that's healthy for you. It comes from a plant." At the very end of it, hey, maybe like marinate it in something so it tastes better. I don't know, but
yeah, you know, they came out with new statistics this year, and the news was not good. It was that a low average of 50% of all Americans are going to get cancer in their lifetime. And it seems to me that you have to watch everything. And now they're saying that postmenopausal women are particularly sensitive to getting breast cancer from clothing that has been made in countries that do not have high standards for polluting their own water systems and their soil systems.
oh
And,
my God.
I think that I just feel like you've got to be so watchful and so correct in every single category of your life. Yikes, to stay healthy. Um, what kind of greens do you recommend? I'm somebody that buys greens and then they sit until they're not usable. I must feel good about buying them. I'm like, oh, good girl, you bought broccoli, and then I don't eat it. But I had to choose up to 5 greens to put in my shopping cart that are going to help me with my weight maintenance and my overall female system. What would you recommend?
There are so like right now you can go out there and you can get the mixed greens. So you have those, right? So usually
Yeah.
you have like 3 different kinds in there for sure. And then, you're throwing everything else, romaine in there. It just depends on what you romaine, spinach.
I always hear kale is such a miracle food.
Right. I love it. Right.
Yeah,
You can throw
I,
kale in there.
I hate it, but I'm going to eat it. Baby kale is better. What about and then I hear broccoli is so good for you, and it's actually an antioxidant food. But beyond that, how about asparagus? How about green
Oh,
peppers? I mean, I'm trying to put together a healthful diet. Where should I be on the shopping aisle today?
on the outer end first off, where all the vegetables are, right? That's where you
Yeah,
should be to
the
start.
perimeter, right?
The perimeter. Well, at least on the in the vegetable area. I don't know
Yeah.
about the other side of the store, right? But there, and just going down and thinking about what do I want for my week? Like like you're talking about peppers, which are really great. You can stuff your peppers, asparagus, which is wonderful, easy to put on the grill, easy to
That's,
throw in the oven.
those two are in my refrigerator now. The the clue is you got to eat them, Diane. You got to prepare.
Don't let them go bad.
Avoiding them is not the story. And what are your attitudes about? Because I know the hospital I went to, it was all about, the one thing they said to me when I was finished with treatment, and it wasn't particularly kind, and it really wasn't subtle, was don't get fat. Do not get fat because fat stores toxins. So, is the other big benefit of eating greens that you're not putting fat on your body And that, to me, the worst part of menopause, which I could never conquer, was the weight gain. I just gained, literally, I think I gained 80 pounds by the time I was done, and then had to lose it. Ouch. Never
Yeah.
lost it all, but lost part of it. So, what is your advice to patients as they go into menopause, which I think gives you not only, I think it gives you a lot of crazy cravings because your emotions are different
All
and
over.
running wild.
Yeah. And the one thing is that when we get older and we lose our hormones, the first thing that happens is that we start to pile on weight.
Oh,
And
tell me.
it's right.
Yeah.
And it is the one thing that has always helped us. And the other thing that starts to pile on when we enter into menopause is our cholesterol levels go up too.
Yep.
And is right. And our number one risk as women when we enter into menopause is cardiovascular disease.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And the thing that I noticed too is osteoporosis.
Absolutely. And that's because we are losing our estradiol. And estradiol actually helps build bone. So when we start to lose it, right? So it's important that, if we're not on that, like to take like, vitamin D, which can help with that, right?
I'm
Very, very
that.
important.
Yeah.
But that is absolutely is what we face as women as we start to lose our hormones. We start to go into osteopenia, osteoporosis. How do we do that? How do we try to fight against that? We are doing weight bearing exercises, right? We're doing good diet, meaning like we were talking about, like trying to pile in the greens and everything else, the vegetables to try to help with that. But it is a challenge. It's a battle. I did the same thing. I was a twig throughout my whole life. And then all of a sudden, right, menopause, bam. And it just started climbing, 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 climbing. And it has been something I have to really, really focus on. And I am on hormones and I still have to focus on it. So
And
it is, you know,
I will say that when I came out of cancer treatment, which was chemotherapy and radiation, um, I had never lost weight. I had gained a ton of steroid weight, which is really water weight that I had to lose. But nobody gave me any kind of guideline, no matter how many times I asked, that they didn't feel that that was their lane to be in. Their lane was chemical treatment for a voracious, dangerous disease. They had done their job. They did a great job. I'm here. And that was the end of it. And then the other thing was couple all that chemical treatment and those steroids with being an older woman. And no one gives you a diet for being an older woman either. And yet you still are, in a way, in that stage of menopause forever. One thing I will say, and this is just my own experience, audience, but for me it was very important. I had a body that responded all my life. And until I got a double mastectomy, I had been in the hospital just once overnight to have an IUD removed. So I was not somebody that ever lived with illness or disease. My husband passed from cancer. That was horrible. But I went and got a full physical about a year after I'd gone through my double mastectomy. And she said, "Oh, your cholesterol's so high, I'm going to put you on a statin immediately." And I said, "I don't want to take drugs." I said, "Give me 6 months." And I had a terrible diet. I used to eat like 8 strips of bacon for dinner. I loved the cured meat. I loved the saltiness. I loved the fat. I ate ice cream. I ate whipped cream. I mean, really, I was in control. And I quit it all, and my cholesterol came back down to perfect. So my advice always is, if you can allow your body and your resolution to eat healthier to make you a better machine, which is what our body is, do it. Well, as a couple of final questions, going along with bioidentical hormone therapy, what do you think of taking statins? She said to me, my doctor, my GP, well, take statins and then you can eat any junk you want to eat and
Oh
you'll
my
be
God.
fine. I thought, I don't think that sounds totally correct. What do you think? What do you think?
I'm laughing at that comment, but I don't like them. And I would rather work with my patients on their diet, because there's also things with statins. They're thinking these days possible breast cancer, diabetes. It does not change the morbidity, mortality, and they're finding things right now. I'm not so sure about the studies, you know. So I really encourage when I'm working with people is to go for diet first. Let's go for diet. Let's go for the hormone, right? We can take it down. There are some people that are genetically, they do run higher, but I'm looking at some of the side effects that occur with them. I recently had a girl come in and she was like, oh my gosh, maybe 30 years old. They put her on a statin, one time high cholesterol level, put her on. She gained like a lot of weight, in pain, all this stuff. She comes to me and I was like, whoa, why are you on? We took her off. She lost the weight in 2 months.
Wow.
The pain went away. And she said, this is the first time I feel normal within a couple of years. And it was off of one high, cholesterol level. Do they, can they, should, I will never get in between. Like, it really, if you've got something really bad going on, then probably, right? But if you can prevent it with diet, which we've been talking about, and what you did is the thing to do.
What I did was, and in a way, what I did, Colleen, was to gauge where my body and my immune system, everything was at by, okay, I'm going to admit I'm out of control. I came out of chemotherapy. I
Yeah.
couldn't eat anything. I'm going to eat everything in sight that I want. And no, you're not, Diane. And by really becoming aware of my diet, I was able to bring my blood pressure down to perfect and my cholesterol down to perfect. So for me, and I think for a big part of our audience, doing it naturally and doing it drug free, is the way to go. We have got a terrible habit in America of using drugs to allow us to go on having bad habits. Like when you have a doctor, a GP tell you, take this statin and then eat any junk you want and your cholesterol is going to be fine. That is not, I think, a good way to treat your body. And, when I questioned that, she really got resentful of me. Like the attitude was, I'm the doctor, you're the patient, I'm telling you what to do. And she said, well, I already ordered the statins for you. I said, well, then cancel them because I'm not going to take them. I think that part of why I wanted to start this podcast was to show a huge aging demographic, especially female, in this country, that one of the most important things to me about aging is keeping a certain amount of control and not surrendering myself to the classic Western medicine system.
And that's the best way to do it. And that is the best way. And sometimes we need medications, but on the whole, everything you put in causes another effect too,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I wish I had started menopause later and I'd known you, but I've got kale in my refrigerator, asparagus in my refrigerator, and unfortunately an extra hot pastrami sandwich in my refrigerator. Not going to eat. And I want to thank you so much, Colleen Kupka, for giving us advice about the one event in our life that is as anticipated with fear as death and taxes, and that is menopause. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young to be old.